Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the TheMove podcast. Talking about the Tour of Spain, a.k.a. the Vuelta. Wrapping up the third and final Grand Tour of the year. I'm Lance Armstrong. I'm right here in Reno, Nevada, in case you were wondering. JB Hager over there in ATX, George, holding down the fort in Greenville. And the other JB, where, you still in Madrid, Johan?
Yes, I am.
We never know with you with your fancy backdrops.
I know. I'm in Madrid. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you can give us a little bit of, there's plenty of stuff to talk about out of Spain. I imagine the sports sections are, at least when it comes to cycling, talking all about Superman Lopez and all of that drama, but we'll get into that and break it down. Today's show brought to you by Aura. We talk about them all the time. If you want to get to tracking your sleep, all your key vitals and metrics, not just with sleep, but with recovery, activity, core temp, sleep cycles, it's all right here in this little package that fits on your finger, totally non-invasive, game-changing technology. Head on over to Aura Ring, OURA ring.com to find out more.
I'm having a hard time keeping up with your girl Kardashian because I'm seeing her post at 95s. Like, I'm pretty far below that, although I was happy with these numbers today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, clearly she's all about clean living. And so that 95 is impressive. Good for her. Talk about impressive. Primož Roglič, third year in a row that he's won the Tour of Spain. Only been done twice before. I think that's correct, Johan, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Tony Rominger, I think, won it in 92, 93, 94. And then Roberto Heras, 2002, 3, and 4. And he had won before that. So the record is 4 victories, but 3 in a row is now Roglič and Heras and Rominger.
Impressive.
And who has that 4?
Heras.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But impressive that he came back just so, and I said it in the last show, to find the motivation to come back after what had to be yet another massive disappointment in the Tour. This is a 3-week race to rally, to get trained up, to get prepared, and then to race so aggressively. Mm-hmm. It shows how tough he is.
Yeah. And let's not forget, the 2 last, so this year and last year, he was not supposed to be there. Now, 2 times he crashed. I mean, disappointment in the Tour last year, and then this year crashing out of it. The only time he really prepared for the Vuelta was his first one. He won, but this year I have to say we have seen by far the strongest Primož Roglič in the Vuelta, if not in any Grand Tour he has been riding. I think this Primož Roglič, he started off a little hesitant. He won. Yes, he won the prologue, but the first few difficult stages, there was a little bit of question mark. Is he really on top? I don't think he was. And so much for doubting about fading away in the third week. he was on fire in the third week. He could have won 2 more stages if he had wanted to. So yeah, impressive. Which, I think it's something that he really needed also. Like this kind of performance in the last week for his future performances and objectives in the Tour de France. That's obviously going to be a big one, having finished this Tour of Spain so strongly.
Well, we'll see in October when they release the new route that a guy like him, because he is getting to the point in his career where it's now or never. Mm-hmm. The unveiling of that route will be a big day for him.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, Johan, I mean, this year was just a complete dominating performance. Last year's Vuelta was a lot different. It came down to the wire, got a little bit of help from Movistar along the way, but he had finished a really tough Tour de France with a huge disappointment. And that was much more, in my opinion, a mental sort of victory for him. The fact that he was able to hold on with his form not being as good as it probably was during the Tour.
Yeah.
This year, I mean, like you said, from the beginning, he was just dominant. And not only that, but he had some bad crashes and still ended up showing everybody like he was still there, even with crashes and bad luck. Never was even close to being affected by any of that.
Yeah, and we in the earlier show we spoke about little mistakes he was making. That attack. I mean, it have no impact at all. We could say, okay, that was a stupid attack. You should not do that. But he was so strong that it really didn't matter. He was.
And listening to your show the other day, La Movida, we all forget about his bad crashes he had in Paris-Nice and in the beginning of the year where he was also winning down to the wire and crashes, takes himself out. But just to be able to recover from that mentally, I feel like it's the guy is just an incredible character. What a fighter he is.
Yeah.
He has that vibe, right? I mean, he has a very stoic vibe, seems to be, whether it's a devastating loss, like we saw 2 years ago in the Tour, or a crash. He's just always like, yeah, that's bike racing.
Mm-hmm.
What does this do for his ambitions for next year? Because maybe he's the Vuelta guy. And if you have 3 in a row, that's quite a story. Or is he going to come in with ambitions for Tour de France?
No, he has to focus on the Tour.
I think he has to.
I just said it. I mean, it's now or never. He's not, and he's racing guys that are, some of them a decade younger than him.
Mm-hmm.
It's now or never.
Yeah. Although I do think though that, since he came later to the sport, I see Primož Roglič, who is still improving. He's still progressing. The level that he had here, I think is for sure the same level that he was supposed to have in the Tour de France this year, and probably the same level as Pogačar. If we can see both of them going head to head next year without any weird, like negative circumstances, crashes or problems in the lead up, it will be a very interesting. I mean, I think those two guys are really above everybody else.
I would be really interesting to see if he takes the same run up to the Tour as he did this year, where he didn't race for, what was it, 6 weeks. And, clearly he had great form, but perhaps he lost a little bit of reaction time that is needed to avoid some of these major crashes that he was in. After some racing, 7 or 8 stages in the Tour de France, the Olympic Games, he had that, although he still crashed, but not as bad in the Vuelta. But his form from the beginning to the end was really phenomenal. So it'd be really interesting to see, once they announce the course, what his approach to getting to the Tour de France will be.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Yeah. No, but I mean, winning this race as being the top favorite. As I said, there was nobody even close to him. There was nobody who could challenge him. And there's a fly here. Sorry. But yeah, I mean, Pogačar and Roglič, I think, are on a level on their own. And then you have, I would say not even an Egan Bernal. I think, you could put him with those like super talented Grand Tour riders. It's this in the Vuelta, he was obviously not at his level. I personally think that his COVID and recovering from that was basically slowing him down. But I don't think a Bernal at his full potential is at the same level as those two guys. They seem to be above everybody else.
Well, but we're talking about the trajectory here. And we've seen Bernal's, and I think there's some things that, he's still a young guy. He got a lot of fame in his home country very, very quickly, and it's hard. It's hard to manage that. But things settle down, you reevaluate, reassess, restart. But
let's not forget, he was still battling for the young rider jersey at the Tour of Spain, so he's got plenty of time to recover and get back to his best.
Right. Hey, today's show also brought to you by Ventum, a premium bike brand launched in people think this was yesterday. They launched this brand in 2014. This is my go-to whip, not just on the road with my NS1, but also my new gravel bike, the GS1. Speaking of gravel, because it's all the rage in cycling, which I love it. Congrats to Dia and the whole crew for they just put on a really cool gravel road race, or a gravel all road race, they call it, called the Wasatch All Road Race. One of the coolest gravel events around. I plan on being out there next summer. So check that out too. Direct to consumer money back guarantee in the first 30 days. No questions asked. Bikes are designed from the ground up and hand assembled here in the US. New bike builds start as low as $2,699 or $2,700. Head on over to ventumracing.com and use the promo code TheMove at checkout for 10% off. Also, today's show brought to you by Roka. And check this out, guys. I got Rob and the crew. They sent me, JB, you don't have these yet. These are the new Lockharts. These are, my other ones I've lost and got displaced and all these things. Dude, the Lockhart, the new Lockhart reader. Oh my God. Just crushing it down there. Amazing athletes, building products for fellow amazing athletes. Bunch of cool people writing it. Justin Williams, the whole Legion team, bunch of guys in the Pro Tour. And a special offer for our listeners, 20% off their first purchase. Head on over to Roka, ROKA.com, and enter the move for 20% off your first purchase.
Hey, before we move on from talking about Primož Roglič, I think we got to give some love to Sepp Kuss, who's phenomenal, just phenomenal. And I can't help but notice he just looks like he's just smiling when everyone else is suffering.
He's got a good way about him. And JB, you put in the show notes or in the pre-notes about what would happen, or does he have the potential to, to be a potential favorite or a leader of a team for the Grand Tours? I mean, logical question. I mean, you'd be up against some guys that are better, a lot better at this point, but he's fun to watch, man. And the guy is just super generous with his energy and his teamwork. Not a selfish bone in his body. Like, you watch those things. We always, over the last 20, 30 years, you think back to guys that were just super domestiques, and they end up being some of the most popular guys in the peloton because everybody can see that. Everybody can appreciate that. And he's one of those guys. Like, he's easy to cheer for. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, and he's always there when, it's one of these guys, like, you don't see him, and sometimes he has a bit of a, not such a strong day, but for some reason he's always there when Roglič needs him. In the key moments, he's there. The guy's worth his weight in gold. It's an amazing domestique, and him. I mean, basically him and Kruijswijk were the two guys that Roglič could rely on all the time. And you know what? I mean, he actually didn't need them that many times. But even if you don't need them, the fact as a leader to know that they're there, it makes a huge difference.
Sorry, go ahead, George.
Back in our day, Johan, our sort of key lieutenant climbers, like, they would pull the pin once they left Lance and lose as much time as possible. I mean, Sepp just kept pushing every day to the finish line and ended up getting 7th overall after doing all of that work, which to me is even more impressive. Yeah.
Well, things have changed, obviously. As sometimes I've been, when I was watching, I said, you know what, we don't understand this game anymore. It's completely different. Yeah. So much for being careful and, conservative and economic with your efforts.
Right. And, the thing I don't know Sepp Kuss at all, and certainly have no insight to how it operates within the team, but it strikes me as a kid that, even if he was not, didn't have good form and the legs were terrible and he was having bad days, is one of these guys that's just my impression that if Primož Roglič said, listen, I need you today, you got to be there. Like, he just has it within him to be that guy. And you always want those guys. I mean, Johan and George, we had a lot of those guys, and when it mattered, they just found it. And so it's so cool to see.
Yeah.
Sometimes with guys like Sepp Kuss, I'm wondering if they are an all-rounder, because maybe they're just sandbagging a little bit in the time trials to save the energy for climbing. Do we know how good he is?
I don't think we saw him sandbag at all in this Vuelta, and he's got, limitless potential, unlimited potential. I mean, and I don't think we need to sort of rush him into anything. He's in a great role right now. He's on a great team. I'm sure he's super happy. He's getting top 10s in Grand Tours now without even really being there for a top 10. So he's still a young guy. I think it's going to be fun to see how far he goes.
Yeah. The other big story is, and we touched on it a second ago, is the Superman Lopez story, which just trying to read about it. I mean, there's no part of this story that's good. and Johan, I'm sure you've gotten some insight into what just what was going on there. And now you read the stories today. They're talking about breaking his contract, didn't show up to the final team dinner, the celebration at the end. Like this is troubling.
Yeah. I mean, it's Eusebio Nzue, is the general manager of Movistar. Who's
very old school and traditional. Like
the guy's been around for 40 years. The team, actually, the organization behind this team exists for 40 years, or 41 now this year. And he said he's never seen something like this. Eusebio is normally a guy, he's very cautious with his words, will never show, his true intentions. But, seeing him on TV and seeing his interviews, there's definitely something hanging in the air there. I mean, at the end of the day, Lopez, there was a race situation that he couldn't control, he couldn't handle. Okay, you lose the podium. Basically, because at that moment you don't have the legs, or you were not paying attention, or whatever, But doing something like this on the second last day, within a team that had already lost 3 riders to crashes or injuries, who had been working for him during 2 or 2.5 weeks, that's just I think the signal he sent to his teammates was pathetic, in my opinion. You can say, okay, in the heat of the action, but they tried to convince him to get on his bike. Imanol Viti, who is the veteran of the father of the team, the super domestique, stopped when he passed there, tried to convince him. The guy just refused to get back on his bike. It's a problem. So yeah, I'm curious to see what it's going to be. Obviously the team, if they make a decision to part ways, they will have the support of the sponsor. I think Movistar right now, they are obviously concerned about they had built up a great image during those 3 weeks. They knew that they couldn't win, but they were fighting. Lopez had 2 days before had won the Queen stage, the most difficult stage, the most beautiful stage, with the CEO and the president of Telefónica Movistar in the car. And 2 days later, you have this.
And he's not said anything? No comment, no public comment.
Lopez.
Yeah.
He did issue a statement. He gave an interview that same night. He kind of apologized, but it was not, he apologized, but he didn't give a specific reason for what happened. I don't think he didn't have himself under control. That's the end of the story. If we go back, we've seen things like that from him. Like if we remember the incident with the spectator in the Giro 2 or 3 years ago, there was a spectator who was running, which was completely wrong. So he basically knocked him off the bike, and Lopez turned back and he stopped and he started to hit the spectator. And that remember when there was talks of disqualifying him because it's against the rules. And then especially 2 years ago when he was on Astana and Movistar was pulling, there was a crash and Movistar didn't stop pulling because they were going already. He destroyed them. He, on TV straight after the stage. Now he's at Movistar, and I think Lopez himself, he kind of said what he had to say, whether that was, staged or prepared or not. I mean, we don't know. Probably it was a prepared statement, but more than that, I think his wife and his father-in-law have done the damage. They've made comment. I mean, do you guys remember when Froome's wife was talking about Wiggins in the 2011 or 12 Tour de France? And well, this is 10 times bigger. What his wife was saying now, and it was
What was she saying?
And Johan, there's a lot more, like you mentioned briefly on La Movida. Everybody's walking on thin ice here because yes, in a sporting aspect, that's total bullshit. Yes, if you don't agree with the team, fine, but you don't abandon your guys, your boys that rode with you for the last 3 weeks, no matter what. You just don't do that. But now with Movistar having a lot of business interests in Latin America and what's happened with Carapaz and what's happened with Nairo, I mean, this could go either way. If as a sporting sense, perhaps you'd fire him, but in a business interest, perhaps you can fire him.
I know it's a very tricky one
on their company.
It is a very tricky one, and there is this kind of sense in Latin America that the Latin Americans are not being treated well.
A big senator already, a Colombian senator, came out today and said,
I've seen that comment.
Don't go too quickly to abandon Superman here. This is the fault of the team, just like what they did to Nairo and just like what they did to Carapaz. The team is wrong. That is a huge statement.
Wow.
That's actually untrue, George. They didn't do anything to Nairo and they didn't do anything to Carapaz.
Right, that's not what George. That's not what the senator said. So he probably doesn't know.
And also, I am convinced that the team didn't give any instructions that were going against Superman Lopez, because it makes no sense. All the guys who were in front of him were ahead. So whether Superman Lopez wanted to pull or not, it didn't affect the position of Enric Mas at all. The thing is that Superman Lopez was just not awake when it happened, and he didn't have the legs. So there was nothing he could do. I think what Unzue said when he passed with the car to the first group, he said, you know what, sit a little bit in the wheels. Rojas is coming a minute and a half behind. Wait for him. He can pull. And then at the end of the stage, you can give it your all, because otherwise you're going to be pulling here for 30 kilometers. And at the end, everybody's going to attack from behind your back. So I am convinced that there was no dubious instructions from the team. Now, that's obviously not what his wife and his father-in-law have been told. And they have been gone crazy on social media, which is nowadays, I mean, it's done so much that she was directly attacking Enric Mas, like directly, and the team. So it's going to be a tricky one for them to see what they can do, because at the end of the day, also, you have to see that Superman Lopez, he is a good rider and he is able to win great stages. He won last year. He won the hardest stage of the Tour de France on Col de la Loze. This year, he wins the hardest stage in the Vuelta. And, Movistar, it's not like they have that many guys who can win races. So it's going to be a tricky one.
We could spend a lot of time talking about this, especially you start talking about family members firing off on social media, just unhinged.
I'm trying to think of other occupations, like, your spouse chiming in on socials about your job. It's like, what would you guys say to your spouse if they were getting real vocal on social? Of course, luckily you didn't have to deal with that. There was no social media then, but what would you say?
Well, his nickname is Superman. So, I mean, it'd probably take a superpower to get the missus to pipe down. I mean, that's if somebody figures that out, let me know. That would be only Superman can figure that out. But I'm out on that one. I don't want to have anything to do with that. Hey, we got to spend a second talking about Fabio Jakobsen. I mean, what a comeback. We've talked about him in the previous shows. Just awesome to see. Just certainly the feel good story of this Tour of Spain. Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, everything he's been through, like we mentioned it after his first couple of wins, just incredible Grand Tour for him. His first Grand Tour back from that crazy injury that we all witnessed. And, he's back at his best. And I think next year, with all the stars aligning, we're going to have a huge battle between, 4 or 5 of the top sprinters in the world that could potentially be back at their top of the game.
Yeah. And not only, I think this Tour of Spain for him, and it was a hard Tour of Spain, he won those 3 stages, but, getting then going to the finish, having to go through this incredibly hard last week, get over all those mountains, he's going to take that form into the winter and next year be able to be on a really high level. I think it's super important that he finished the Vuelta and, had the points jersey, obviously. But yeah, I mean, everybody's super happy for him. He's back to where he was. He had the whole team around him. I think there were 7 guys left in the Vuelta the last week, and they were all staying with him during the during the last few stages. So no more personal ambitions for anybody, just, bringing him to the finish, which, I'm sure they have finished the Tour of Spain with a great feeing as a team.
Which they finished most races with a great feeling, it seems.
Yeah.
So De Koning Quick-Step has two of the biggest comeback stories of the year. Don't forget about Cavendish.
And so, no, we haven't.
Right.
Yeah,
and so,
but this is probably the worst news for Mark Cavendish.
Right. Who's the darling now going into the Tour next year?
No
well, first of all, I think we need to find out if Cavendish is going to be on the Koning.
True. They have no contract.
Next year is called Quick-Step. But yeah, that's actually, George, do you have any inside information?
I was going to
he stopped responding to George.
I don't have the inside scoop. Nor actually do I want that one. I think that's such a, big sensitive issue right now, because I mean, let's be real. Quick-Step, what they do to bring people back to their, the top of their game, where their team ambiance is, and their, it's just like they've had some incredible successes with that. So it'd be hard for somebody like Mark to leave that program. Although at the end of the day, money's money. So I'm sure he's got a lot of offers coming in, but it's going to be a really tough.
I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure about that there's lots of money, offers coming in. It's late in the season.
It is late.
Let's not forget, he is 37 years old. This is, I personally think that this is one of his only options. If he wants to keep going and have fun on the bike, he could go to a team. I mean, he could go back to Quebec where he was before, right? If they find some money, but I don't think we're going to see the same Mark Cavendish. He doesn't have much options, in my opinion, and it is strange. It is. I'm pretty sure
you guys are quick to, just like he was before when he wasn't riding well. He's done. Now he wins the Tour. We're only a month away from the Tour, and you guys are already saying forget about him. But no, I think wherever he ends up, we're seeing the best of Mark Cavendish again. He's got the love for the sport again. He's got his confidence back. Agreed, Quick-Step is a better team for him, but I think he will continue to be successful.
No, George, no, I disagree.
We both disagree. But let's not look. It is a great story. It is, arguably the biggest feel-good story of this calendar season in cycling. My fear is, Patrick Lefevere is just, as you've seen in recent months. I mean, this guy just doesn't care. I mean, he is a stone cold killer. He treats the team and the sport like a true business. There's not a lot of heart and emotion there at old Lefevere. So that's the biggest problem. And I do think in order for Mark to be as successful as he was this year, he needs to be on that team. Now, look, I agree. If he goes to, I don't care what team, and wins, all he's got to do is win one more stage. I will be the first person to congratulate him. It's amazing. I know how the steps in this process are going to play out. And it's unfortunate, or potentially unfortunate. So, sorry, George. George, you are such a bleeding heart liberal. Just so soft.
George, you say you don't want to know the inside because it's too sensitive. What's sensitive?
Well, I mean, what am I going to do? I mean, how can I help you get more money from Quick-Step? Call up Patrick Lefevere. That's probably
that's not your job. It's just your job is to give us information.
Yeah, you're a commentator now.
Good point.
You're a pundit and a commentator.
If you come at it from that angle, yes, agreed. I could probably try to get some inside scoop.
Then get on it, please. Hey, today's show also brought to you by Element Tea. Element Tea is a healthy alternative to sugary electrolyte drinks. And it's true, there is no sugar, there is no crap in this. 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, 60 milligrams of magnesium. Really, really big with the keto crowd. It's my go-to hydration replacement. Just no junk in it. I love it. So for our listeners, a free sample pack. Head on over to drinklmnt.com/TheMove, and for just the cost of shipping, you get your free sample pack. You can try all the different flavors, and then you zone in on what you like. But seriously, give it a shot. What else?
Well, in the 4.5 years ish that we've been doing the Move podcast, I don't recall us talking about Magnus Cort, who was so impressive. Tell me your thoughts on this guy.
He's been, he's, I think 2 or 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, he already won two stages in the Vuelta, like in one Vuelta, 2 stages. I think he was on Astana back then. This guy is I mean, and in this Vuelta, he was impressive. There was not a single breakaway he was in that he didn't win. So especially on different terrains, he won a bunch sprint, or kind of a bunch sprint. He won an uphill finish, and then he won from a breakaway and almost won the last time trial. That would have been incredible. That would have been even better than Wout van Aert in the Tour. So I mean, he's definitely a winner. I think I've said it after week 1. Pay attention for Cort Nielsen in the World Championships more than ever. The Danes are having a strong team at the Worlds, and with that kind of form, I mean, he's going to be there. And I think it's going to take like a super Wout van Aert or a super Alaphilippe to beat a guy like Cort Nielsen in the World Championships.
We're also looking pretty good right now as well in Tour of Britain. So I think it's going to be a very exciting World Championships. And we also have the Americans, which are coming into form with Nielsen Paulus winning San Sebastian, Quinn Simmons riding really well at the end of the Vuelta. Lawson Craddock was up there as well. So I'm excited to see how the Americans fare at this World Championships.
I got to acknowledge Lawson Craddock because all the work he put in, and holding off like 20 seconds all day, he worked his ass off. And when Magnus Cort won, it's like Lawson, you'd have thought he was crossing the line first. I love that enthusiasm. Yeah. Love that.
Yeah. He was amazing. He was amazing. But that stage, JB, Quinn Simmons, man, that stage he was incredible. A 20-year-old rider who almost wins on stage 19 of a Grand Tour. I mean, that guy has a big future, so much power. And because normally he's the most he's ever ridden is I think Tirreno Adriatico was 7 days.
Yeah. Well, and just to reiterate and put it in perspective for those who maybe don't follow the sport that closely, 20, so just 20 years old is young. There were times I think George and I probably started a Grand Tour at 20 or 21, but the intention going in is that you bail out halfway. At 20 years old, now it's tricky to think of as a 20-year-old because when you look at him, he's very mature. He's got the full, he doesn't look 20. But to finish a 3-week race at 20 years old is, and now of course we are seeing these younger and younger guys coming in. So to your point, Johan, maybe we just don't know what's going on anymore, but just looking at it, if you didn't think too hard, that's very young to finish a 3-week tour. Yeah.
And even more to his credit. I mean, he didn't go in the under 23 category. He went straight from the juniors to the professional. So he has no experience at all in stage races. And the only experience he had is from this year, the few stage races he's done, and he's won one of 5 days in Belgium. So that's a name to remember. Definitely.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. It could be another American that wins the World Championship in his early 20s. That'd be cool.
All right, we got to talk about
why not
and spend some time on how disappointed Ineos Grenadiers must feel with their Vuelta.
Yeah,
you guys are done talking about them.
No, I personally don't think they're that disappointed. They did what they could. They came with a strong team. Like if you saw the names on paper, you would say, "Wow, who's going to beat these guys?" And then, one after the other, Carapaz turned out to not be on great shape. And then Bernal wanted but didn't have it. Ineos has bigger fish to fry than the Vuelta. That's just one of the races. That's just another race for them. So I don't think that Ineos right now, they have nothing to prove. Definitely not to their sponsor, which, it's a guy who really believes in the team. And for the fans, obviously, it's a disappointment because, we're all used to see Team Ineos at the front. And, the only thing that I can say to be a little bit critical of Team Ineos is that they need to adopt a different strategy, a race strategy, because whether their leaders are in great shape or not, they always race the same way. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't work. That doesn't work,
Well, you mean it hasn't been working, right?
Yeah.
But they also need. It feels like they need, and maybe Tom Pidcock is that guy. Like they need the next, because if Bernal has a question mark on him or around him, this current makeup is not gonna. We're not gonna see the Skies and the Ineoses of old. We're not.
Yeah.
Like this.
Well, I don't know. I think it's hard to say Bernal has this question mark. I mean, he won the Giro.
I agree, George. I agree.
He got COVID and he still, he said he didn't, after his race where he blew it all apart, he said 5th place or 10th place for me is the same thing. Like it doesn't make a difference. So I'm just going to race to get podium or nothing. So I kind of like that aggressive attitude. I like the fact that he's all in on trying to move up. And look, the guy won the Giro this year and had a decent Vuelta. There's no way we can count him out. And I think
no.
I know.
No,
so maybe they okay. All right, then that came across too harsh. I wasn't saying he is done. I'm just saying we even spoke about this a minute ago. That there's something's a little different, and these guys and the other kids that are coming up are just so damn strong. Now, who's to say that maybe their lives don't get complicated and they start to go through a period of plateau, but it just feels like they need one more.
They need I think what you're saying, they need a dominant leader. Like we are here for Tom Pidcock.
They do have a great young rider already on the team, which is not very known yet, but is going to be a great Grand Tour rider, Spanish rider, Carlos Rodriguez. Have you ever heard
this is what you bring to the show. Right? It's these moments where people are all of a sudden, everybody listening is like, never heard of him. And then in like 2 years, they say, well, yeah, of course, I've heard of him.
He's better than the kid that just signed with you for UAE?
He's different. But he's amazing. He won the last stage. Also a guy who went from juniors straight to Ineos. So he already went last year to the team when he was 19. So didn't go to the under 23 category. Just finished second in Tour de l'Avenir, only 7 or 8 seconds down. The last stage he made up almost 2 minutes difference. Did like a 40 kilometer breakaway on his own. Carlos Rodriguez, he's going to be really good. Really great climber, good time trialist. Yeah.
Johan always has the scoops. Yeah. All right. So we'll be back for the World Championships.
The World Championships, yeah.
And we're all going to be together unless the world changes on us again. But the plan is for myself and George and Johan to be together in Mallorca for the Move camp. A bunch of great guests coming, but that'll be cool to do it in person together.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Well, Johan already mentioned Magnus Cort is a name to watch for Worlds. He's on form. Can you throw a couple more at us, guys?
Just the obvious. Van Aert, he's
Van Aert for sure.
Alaphilippe looks pretty good in Tour of Britain.
I'm gonna say a strange one. Well, not a strange one, but Peter Sagan.
Wow. That would be a hell of a story.
Yeah. He has his eyes on it.
Van der Poel, if he's able to recover from his,
it's not sure. Still decided. The Dutch selection is not decided yet because they're waiting for him. And I also think that if Van der Poel participates, it's almost impossible he's going to be at his full potential. Not like Van Aert or Alaphilippe or Cort Nielsen or whoever.
Just to remind people of the injury he took in on the mountain bike where he landed hard on his back.
Yeah, but apparently there was already an older injury, and that actually made it worse. The crash in the Olympic Games. But the World Championships, 260 or close to 270 kilometers on a circuit. It's That's hard. That's really hard.
Yeah. Yes.
End of September in Belgium, so you can have all kinds of crazy weather as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll watch it from Mallorca, and then we'll comment on it once the race is finished.
Yeah, we'll have good weather in Mallorca, I'm pretty sure. So that'll
for sure.
Good end to that deal. But all right, so we'll see everybody for the coverage of the Worlds, and thanks for tuning in. This wraps up our coverage of the Tour of Spain. Once again, congratulations to Primož Roglič. He's the dude is tough. Got to just love how tough he is. And then there was a bunch of other storylines, but been fun. Thanks, Johan. Thanks, George. Thanks, JB.
Thanks.
See you in a couple of weeks.
See ya.
Guys.
Ciao.
See ya.